बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अस्सलामुअलैकुम। आज हम विजुअल इम्पेयरमेंट के यूनिट नंबर 14 मोबिलिटी टेक्निक्स को पढ़ेंगे। सफ़ा नंबर 313। सबसे पहले है शोर लाइन। द शोर लाइनिंग एंड ट्रेलिंग टेक्निक्स आर क्वाइट डिफरेंट बट कैन बी confused by untrained observer. Use of a cane does not automatically transform trailing into shorelining. It is possible to trail using a cane instead of one's finger. Term shorelining comes from idea of monitoring where a shoreline is. Historically, in absence of formal navigational equipment, if a fisherman wanted to remain close to the shoreline while out fishing for the day, he could simply stay close enough to shore that he could still see it. This same idea is a part of cane travel. A traveler can simply remain close enough to a shoreline that he or she knows where that shoreline still is, which generally involves touching that shoreline during each cane arc of hearing its echo. Shorelining is often used when walking along the edge of a street or parking lot so as not to drift out into the middle of the street or parking lot accidentally. If a traveler is walking along the edge of a street, he or she can touch the edge of that street at some point in the cane arc. If the edge of that street is a curb, it is likely that the edge of the street will be touched at the relevant end of the cane arc. Such a technique is common in places where there is no sidewalk or an obstructed sidewalk. If the edge of the street is defined by a grass line, the same is likely true. If the edge of the street is defined by a seam, it is likely that the traveler will have switched into a constant contact techniques to monitor where the seam is as they continue along the edge of the street. In any case, the traveler is still maintaining his or her own direction rather than delegating that decision to the person who built the road. Blind people need to understand that they have the right to have their own routes as they travel and not depend only on the built environment to dictate that for them. Shoreline is the act of using a cane to follow a border by alternately touching the surface being walked upon and the differing surface material to the side of the path. Number 1, traveler locates the shoreline. Number 2, traveler uses foot or cane tip to establish a parallel direction with the shoreline. Number 3, rest of the body is then positioned accordingly in a perpendicular position. Number 4, traveler extends cane forward so that tip is in contact with the edge of the shoreline. Number 5, traveler modifies the basic touch techniques by utilizing a spring action with the arm and increasing the arc slightly on the side of the body closer to the shoreline. Cane tip alternately contacts the walking surface and the shoreline.